We're listening to DFCRadio.com.
Welcome to A Girl in a Garden on DFCRadio.com. This is your host, Emily, and today is April 7th. It is the first full week of April. Last week's show, I kept saying it was March 30th. Actually, there's 31 days in March, and I was just off a day. I don't know why I forget about March 31st. So, last week's show was on the 31st, not like I recorded it on the 30th. And today is April 7th. And last week was Easter, we had April Fool's Day, and now we're into April. And what is the saying that you always hear for April? April showers bring May flowers. And in California, we're in this humongous drought, and I know I'll be talking about different ways that I will be planning on reducing water. And I'd like to hear from you guys. What are you doing to cut down on your water usage this year? I am going to post this question on Facebook, and you can always email me in responses to agirlinagarden@gmail.com. I would love to hear some of the suggestions or things that you are doing out there to reduce your water usage. And yeah, we probably need like 90 days of straight rain to catch up. But last night we got a little bit of a shower, and I sleep with my windows open, and I woke up to it pouring down rain, and it sounded wonderful, and I was able just to drift back off to sleep. So hopefully we get some more rain, and it was wonderful. So welcome to April. April showers bring May flowers. So yesterday, which was Monday, I had a talk with Heavy Tea yesterday from the Heavy Tea's Grow Show. And the last time I actually co-hosted the Heavy Tea Grow Show with Tyler, I was actually outed for smoking pot and how I use it for my cancer. And I will say I was super uncomfortable. And if you listen to the podcast of that show, I was on the show, and it was Duffman, it was Heavy Tea, it was DNG, he grows, and he's on Instagram, and it was just one of those conversations of, I don't really want to talk about this right now. So I was completely outed, and I posted a picture on Instagram last night of, yeah, I actually do use cannabis, and I smoke it. I also work full-time. I have a girl in a garden. I volunteer. I'm a board member of a nonprofit. So it doesn't define everything that I do, but it is part of what I do. And I'm going to talk about more on the show, just because it is part of my life. And I don't know why. We've kind of shied away from talking about it. But what I'm doing, I still go to all the cannabis cups. I still do all that stuff. I'm just going to start posting it more. So I lost a ton of followers last night on Instagram. Imagine that. I posted a picture of myself with a joint, and I lost a bunch of followers. But I also gained a ton of new followers. And this morning I ended up with 3,972 followers. So I probably lost about 20 or 30 and got twice as many. So I don't think it's a bad thing. So I'm going to talk about it more. And I'm still going to talk about gardening, but it is a plant, so it goes right into gardening. And we'll see. I'll probably lose some more followers, and I'll gain some more. So it's going to be a different year. Another thing that I talked about last week was the acquisition of General Hydroponics and Vermicrop to the Hawthorne Gardening Group. And Hawthorne Gardening Group is a subsidiary to Scott's Miracle-Gro. And next Wednesday, July 15th, Heavy Tea's Grow Show is having a show on this topic specifically. And staff from GH will be live in the studio. I'll also be calling in to talk a little bit about this because if you don't know, I am from a buyout. I used to work for a company called AgriQuest and became an employee of Bayer Crop Science. So I might know a little bit about what they're going through. So next week, 6 p.m. on DFC Radio, April 15th, Pacific Standard Time, 6 p.m. They're going to be talking about the GH and Vermicrop sale to Hawthorne Gardening Group. And there's a lot of questions that's going around. And I will say, I've posted a few things on Instagram, and I've gotten quite a few messages and people asking about it. And the forums are completely abuzz. So hold all your comments till next week and call in. Another thing that's going on with A Girl in a Garden, check out the first issue of Weed Reviewer magazine. And A Girl in a Garden has a half-page ad in it. This magazine is launching the 18th. I believe it's at the High Times Cup in Colorado. And my buddy Andrew is just starting that magazine, and he is putting all of his work into it. And we're looking forward to a successful release. And I'm happy to have an ad in their first issue. A Girl in a Garden has also donated $500 to the Watch It Grow Urban Gardening Foundation for 2015. I happen to also be a board member of the Watch It Grow Urban Gardening Foundation. So if you have questions about it, or you would like more information or to donate, send me an email. I'll send you the information and you can check it out. There are some really great projects we'll be working on for urban gardening with schools and urban areas in the Downey, California area. So, gardening events. What's going on? It's April. It's the first week of April. So, there's quite a few gardening events that pop up, just events in general. This, I guess it would be this week, the 10th. It's a few days away. There's a Customer Appreciation Day at Urban Roots from 11 to 4 p.m. Information can be found at urbanrootstampa.com. There's food truck, raffles, samples, live music, 15% off the entire store. Their location is 1130 North Dale Mabry Highway in Tampa, Florida, 33618. On the 11th, there is also a Customer Appreciation Day at Greenfire Hydro Garden and Organic Supply from 11 to 3 p.m. You can find more information at www.facebook.com Greenfire Sacramento. They're going to have vendors, free samples, music, and up to 30% off on selected items. Their location is 3230 Auburn Boulevard, Sacramento, California, 95821. And on, April 14th and 15th is a new show called Horticultural 360. It's at the Denver Mart in Denver, Colorado. This is a business event only. So for more information and to register for the show, you need to visit horticulture360.com. And they just added a keynote speaker, which is Ed Rosenthal. On the 18th, and I wish I was going to this event, is the 7th Annual Goat Festival. And that's at Quesa and the Ferry Plazas Farmers Market in San Francisco. It's from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And at 10 a.m., you will be able to pet adorable baby goats from the San Francisco School and Toloma Farms at a petting stable. At 11 a.m., they're doing goat cheese tasting. Goat cheese tasting. 12 p.m., goat-themed cooking demo. And you get to visit one of the best farmers markets on the West Coast. So more information at facebook.com/Quesa. That's Quesa. And they run the Ferry Building Farmers Markets every Saturday in San Francisco. It's one of the best. Another garden event, well, more of a lifestyle event maybe, April 18th through the 20th, the Denver High Times Cannabis Cup. More information can be found at www.cannabiscup.com/Denver. Tickets range from $45 to $2,420 a piece. So you can spend some pretty change on that trade show. More events and information can be found at agirlinagarden.com. So for today's show, I'm going to be talking with Judd from Harvest Solutions. And we're going to talk about hunger awareness and donating food. And even if you don't have anything to donate. You can also donate your time. Also, Gardening in 2 Minutes, Hardening Off Plants by the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardeners. And at the very end of the show, I'm going to tell my Tinder fail story. Now, also, remember to check out all of the shows on dfcradio.com. Monday, we have the Beer 30 show at 5:30 p.m. Tuesday, Girl in a Garden, which you're listening to. Also on Tuesday is Grow with Grubby Cup at 6 p.m. And Wednesday is the Heavy Teas Grow Show with Heavy Tea, Dr. Duff, Horty Chris, and industry guests starting at 6 p.m. And if you're on the go, you can download the DFC Radio app. You can find them on Android and for your iPhone. Or you can browse through the archives on dfcradio.com. So we're going to take a brief break, hear from a Girl in a Garden show sponsors, and then I will be talking with Judd from Harvest Solutions. This is Emily on A Girl in a Garden on dfcradio.com.
You are listening to the beautiful Emily Walter on dfcradio.com.
dfcradio.com.
Here at Green Grow, we take organic gardening seriously. With our mycorrhizae products, you'll increase growth and help reduce the need to replace old, worn-out soil. We help provide electrolytes and maximize nutrient intake to make your indoor garden lush and green. So give your plants the strength that they need and breathe life into your soil with Green Grow. Find us at your local nursery or visit us at thegreengrow.com. That's the green, G-R-O.com.
dfcradio.com.
You're listening to A Girl in a Garden on dfcradio.com.
Welcome to A Girl in a Garden on dfcradio.com. This is your host, Emily. And today I am talking with my friend who's been on the show quite a few times. His name is Judd. How are you doing today, Judd?
Doing well, Emily. Thanks for having me on.
So I affectionately call Judd Farmer Judd. He's an urban farmer. He's also the owner of Harvest Solutions.
That's me.
Will you tell us a quick to-do about Harvest Solutions?
Well, at the moment, it's just a company that has a single product called Quick Snip, which is a food-grade trimmer and trimming machine lubricant. Helps keep saps and sticky stuff off of your trimming equipment to make it more efficient and that.
And I will say the other night I had something sappy on my hands, and I had no sap off, and it was all resiny, so I actually sprayed some of your Harvest Solution Quick Snip on it and then washed my hand, and it helped.
Wow, that's surprising. That's a new use for it that we weren't aware of.
Yeah. In a pinch, it helps in the middle of the night when you have resinous stuff on your hands.
Cool.
And no sap off.
Glad to hear that.
So besides owning Harvest Solutions, which has a brand new product that just launched, if you are interested, check out Harvest Solutions on Facebook, or it is available through Tradewinds Supply. Is that correct?
Yeah, Tradewinds Wholesale Garden Supply carries it now.
Great. So you can also check it out. So, Judd, how long have you been in this gardening industry?
In the indoor gardening industry, about 8 years, I believe now. I don't know. The time flies.
And we've probably known each other 7 years.
At least.
At least.
At least, yeah. I think you and I got acclimated when just before getting my foot in the door, to be honest with you. So, yeah, give or take.
So, Judd and I have known each other a few years, and mainly our discussions revolve around gardening.
Imagine that.
What an interesting tidbit. Obviously, it's a gardening show. But
Yeah.
we talk a lot, mainly because obviously we both have a very big passion of gardening. But it seems like a lot of the stuff we talk about is what you can do with your garden and how it helps the community.
Yeah, we do a lot of talking about our own personal gardens, I find, which I think a lot of people can probably relate to. They have garden buddies out there, and I would definitely consider you my garden buddy. I mean, we always talk about the plants that we're growing and what our plans are in the future for our gardens, and as you alluded to, what you can do when you're successful with your garden and have too much. And I think we touched on it last year, and it's just a point that can't be understated, or overstated, I should say.
And I guess how we lead into this conversation is food insecurity. You happen to live in the Midwest.
Yep, in Kalamazoo.
You live in Kalamazoo, which is a larger city in Michigan. And it also has some food insecurity, as all cities seem to these days.
Yeah, particularly the statistics here are kind of horrifying. There's around 50%. It moves up and down, but around 50% of the population here, or in the entire of Southwest Michigan, is facing food insecurities and on some level of assistance. Obviously, that assistance doesn't even reach everybody, and those are statistics that are drawn from government assistance programs, when there's also plenty of effort from the private side of things to help alleviate hunger, whether it be community gardens, church groups, rescue missions, and food banks. And that's what I'd like to talk more about today, too, as far as, again, what people do with their spoils from their garden, I think, is what we talked about initially last year. And we could probably harp on that same subject again this year a little bit, and try to encourage people to overgrow their garden, maybe plant an extra couple plants for the sake of donating to their local food banks and such. But I think what I'm doing this year is more of an exponential effort. Whereas, again, there being all these private entities that are already have programs and gardens in place to, on a local basis, fight hunger. There's things you can do and organizations you can work with in order to make your efforts multiply and meet some like-minded folks in the meantime.
So I guess the main question, which you just started going into, was what can I do as a home gardener to help?
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of them. You kind of went into a few of them. Plant an extra row. There's a company called Plant a Row for the Hungry. Plant an extra row in your garden. I believe our mutual friend Fraser Love was asking some questions this week of where can I donate? A lot of people don't know that you can donate fresh fruits and vegetables, so your excess vegetables, to local food pantries. And you can go to ampleharvest.org, enter in your zip code, it will tell the food pantries. Or say you know one that's not listed, you can get them listed on there. And you can also print out your tax write-off, because the vegetables that you donate, you can get fair market price as a tax write-off.
Sure, absolutely. And in fact, they're quite happy to encourage that here at the food bank in Kalamazoo. It's called Loaves and Fishes. And the first time I visited there with my first load of food to donate and to get acclimated with my new local food bank, they actually had a slip ready to fill out for that exact write-off. And that was something I was less than accustomed to, because I'm usually pleased to just drop food off. But that absolutely helps the whole process along.
And another cool project, company, organization you can follow is the hashtag Food is Free. There's also foodisfree.org, and it's some people will leave plants, some people will leave just excess food. Take some if you're hungry, leave some for others, and just give away free food that you grow that's fresh. Now, I will say the only downfall to that is because we live in the United States, which is the lawsuit central. You have no protection if you give away free food and say someone eats something that they're allergic to. They might go back to that. The nice thing about donating to food pantries is if you donate and do the tax thing from no ill will of your own, say you donate something in good faith, you won't get sued if something bad happens.
Not at all. There's offhand, I always butcher the name of it, but there was a law that was passed under Bill Clinton to protect people from lawsuit and to encourage people to donate fresh produce and fresh goods to food pantries. And I wanted to touch on that, as you were saying before, how crucial that is for food pantries. And I encourage people that are even remotely curious about this to really go down and not just drop stuff off at their food pantry, but if they can catch somebody there, usually you will find somebody who is more than willing to show you around and give you an idea of what a day there is like. Not just stab in and out and drop off your food, but to get acclimated with what the people who are handing out the food to those who need it, what the demands are like in your community. And I forewarn people as well, even though you may have a good grasp on what level of need your community has, be prepared to have your heart handed to you. When I lived in Waukesha, Wisconsin, I was doing a hydroponic experiment, not an experiment, but a project where I was growing 60 heads of lettuce in a hydroponic system over the course of 30 days. So on average, you're talking 2 heads a day, which I thought was a significant contribution for just a single person to offer a food bank. And I walked in to try and organize the process of donating what I thought was a large amount of fresh produce, because my initial concern was that, and I'm sure this is a concern for a lot of people, that you're going to donate fresh produce to a food bank and it's going to wilt away and get wasted potentially, or especially as somebody that was in my position, I didn't see 60 heads of lettuce getting divvied up without at least some of them getting old before they all got handed out. So I went down there to plan it out with the manager, and I asked her, I said, this is a hydroponic system where I don't necessarily need to harvest all 60 heads at once. I can bring you down 10 a day, 20 a day. I can bring them down even on demand. So if you just keep in touch with me, we can work together to make sure that what you have is absolutely fresh and nothing gets wasted. And much to my surprise, and I was quite disheartened by it. But it was a reality check as far as what the needs are. The food banks generally have non-perishable food items is what they're looking for. Again, because they can store it and whatever. But we've kind of locked ourselves into a culture of that's all we can give a food bank, which leaves them shy of good food that isn't loaded full of chemicals and preservatives. So when I went down there and offered this lady the 60 heads of lettuce, and I asked her if we could divvy it up or whatever, she immediately, and every time I tried offering a flexible option on how to receive the lettuce, she demanded that she receive all 60 at once, and not in a bad way. It was just reaffirmed that she can handle 60 in a day. And I told her, again, I thought she was just trying to be very welcoming and accepting to my donation. So I reiterated to her that it was no big deal to show up in 2 separate shipments or 3. And she literally had to shake me down to reality and tell me that the 60 heads of lettuce wouldn't last half a day there. And they would all be given out to those who need it, including families and children and
That morning.
Yes. And that was huge for me. And that just shows, even when you think you're going to make a significant dent in it, you can't, because it takes a month to grow those 60 heads of lettuce in a pretty decent amount of area, and to hear that they can get rid of them in, like you said, in a half a day even is is a testament to how large the need for fresh food is.
You are listening to the beautiful Emily Walter on DFCRadio.com.
DFCRadio.com.
A girl in a garden quick tip. Have you ever been cooking and added too much salt to something? Well, with soup, you can add in some cut up potatoes, throw them in the soup, and let it simmer for about 10 minutes. It will absorb the excess salts, and once you remove them, the dish tastes better. So for more information and tips, tune into A Girl in a Garden on DFCRadio.com, 5 p.m. Tuesdays.
Here at Green Grow, we take organic gardening seriously. With our mycorrhizae products, you'll increase growth and help reduce the need to replace old, worn-out soil. We help provide electrolytes and maximize nutrient intake to make your indoor garden lush and green. So give your plants the strength that they need and breathe life into your soil with Green Grow. Find us at your local nursery or visit us at thegreengrow.com. That's the green, GRO.com.
You're listening to A Girl in the Garden on DFCRadio.com.
DFCRadio.com.
Since you're in Michigan, you have a little bit of time before you start planting outside, and it's the perfect time to start seeds. Is that correct?
Yeah, I started my peppers and tomatoes about a month ago because typically I like to get them started around 8 weeks before taking them outside. And you're right, we got about another month or so to go to take everything outside. You know, anywhere between the 1st and 15th of May is when I like to get things rolling. So, yeah, I've had mine planted for about a month. They're scrawny yet. They're
It'll
getting
be
there.
the perfect time to transplant, about 8 weeks, started indoors. You'll have to harden them off because it's a little bit cooler out there. You should harden off any plants anyway.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So, you are planting a few things this year. What is your idea of your garden for this year? Is it just your space, or are you gardening anywhere else, and what are you growing?
All right. Well, I'm starting plants for a lot of people. First off, for my garden, I'm just doing a typical Judd garden. I grow in containers. Probably a few more this year. We'll see how that ends up. I think maybe around 25 buckets or so total, with a mix of, at least for the large buckets, I'm going to have a mix of tomatoes and peppers, all sorts of different varieties, cucumbers, zucchini, maybe some peas and beans as well. I got lots of strawberries going for this year. I overwintered a bunch of strawberries for the first time, and I succeeded. So I'm going to have probably about 10 to 12 hanging baskets of strawberries outside as well. Should be a fun year.
And you were never going to eat all of that.
Absolutely not. No. So on a basics, the basic beginnings of how my garden and gardening is going to help contribute against the fight against hunger will be the whatever spoils extras I get from my garden that I won't be able to eat, which, as you pointed out, is going to be a large portion of it. We'll go next door to the church, which is sort of a gathering place for food donations that make their way downtown to the rescue mission that we have here in town that feeds the homeless.
Nice. And so how did you, so people, I guess here, I'm trying to think of how I would phrase this question, because sometimes you just need to do a little community outreach to your neighbors, and all of a sudden it becomes a project.
Yes. Okay. So what happened is being my neighbors, I'm communicative with the church next door, and I was talking to the pastor there. I don't know, maybe about a month ago, and we were talking about their garden and the plans that they have this year in order to improve. Just like any gardeners, they're looking to improve what they're doing every year. And we had a discussion about where they get their plants. And I think, and that's where we were talking about earlier, how you can have an exponential effect as a gardener if you want to donate. It doesn't necessarily need to be the end plants, the end fruits of your labor. You can actually find opportunity elsewhere, but you have to ask. If you have any kind of curiosity how like the local garden around you is running, just go ask. Everybody's just totally willing to talk about it. So when I went over there, I found that most of the plants that they have there, they're not purchased by the church or anything. They look to get donations of plants themselves. And traditionally here in town, Kalamazoo is known for lots of things like guitars and such, but lesser known for being the potting plant capital of the United States. So we have a lot of greenhouses here that generally start mostly decorative flowers and such. But there's a few of them that do start vegetables. But one of them, Wenke's Greenhouses, is a place that generally sticks to flowers, but dedicates a certain amount of space to starting vegetables. And there's been such an insurgence of community gardens and churches that are growing food as well, that Wenke's can't keep up with the demand of how many plants they need to start for all these community gardens. So when I talked to the pastor next door and I asked him about what would he like to see improve in his garden and everything, and he had told me that they were struggling getting a hold of peppers and tomato plants specifically because, again, Wenke's just could not start enough for everybody. So when divided by everybody, it turned out to be less than they were capable of growing and wanted to grow. But they couldn't find a way out of that problem. And so I figured maybe I could help be the solution. So considering I had lights running, I decided to offer my help and offer to start plants for them.
Nice.
Yeah, so
I mean, that's cool. So you ordered a whole bunch of seeds this year.
Actually, I already had a ton of them to begin with. So I just, all I did was in order to, when I plant, I plant based on value. You know, I mean, media is the most expensive part about planting a bunch of seeds. The seeds generally, unless you're planting something exotic, is the cheapest part. So even though I might have 90% viable seeds, I still drop 2 seeds in every spot and generally end up with 2 plants and need to cull them. So now, fortunately for the pastor next door, he got his order in late, but I was able to cull everything that I had and double what I had started. So rather than throw out all those cullings, I just moved them into different flats. And again, the same thing with getting your heart handed to you at the food bank. I'm thinking, you know, if I start 30 tomato plants for these folks, they're going to be ecstatic. And but I left the number open for them. And they actually asked me for 75 tomato plants and 75 pepper plants, of which are going to go out into their field. They're going to be tended by the folks that generally tend the vegetables over there, and ultimately could lead to pounds and pounds and pounds and pounds of food. And then again, to humble myself, likely not to take a significant nick out of the hunger problem, but every step is helpful.
And 75 plants is no joke.
Really, though, I'm going to be lucky if I'm able to fulfill their wish for that this year because of our late start. But again, we were really fortunate that that I, to begin with, dropped 2 seeds in every spot, and it had really good germination this year. So I'll be able to get a significant amount of plants to them. Another issue that they had over there was plant supports. These folks can't get enough tomato cages and things of that nature. So if some of your listeners are, maybe don't have a garden or anything like that, go, sometimes these tomato cages go on sale for 99 cents. You want to help your local garden. It's wise, again, just to go ask first what they need. They'll be glad to tell you. But if you bring them 5 tomato cages, I almost guarantee you that they will put them to use.
Right away.
Absolutely. Yeah. Again, I mean, when you're talking about 75 tomatoes, 75 tomato cages, even at 99 cents, is $75. This isn't something that a community garden that relies on donated time and donated plants and mostly donated everything. It's not something they can pony up for. So generally, again, it's overlooked. So there's a lot of corners to this that are overlooked. It's great that everybody's willing to take their extra tomatoes down to the food bank, but consider just starting an extra plant for somebody once, and it has its exponential benefit down the line.
So a few things that you can do to help is donate plants, donate seeds, donate garden equipment. Find your local resources and people that need that stuff. Ask around.
Time. Don't think that.
Time is another one.
Oh,
Time
yeah.
is of the essence.
It's amazing, actually. You'd be shocked. Like the folks next door, they'll allow you to walk right on and help them pull weeds. They're never going to stop you.
Who will turn you down from you?
Oh, absolutely. But on top of that, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to get on a schedule or that it's any level of commitment. If you go and help somebody even for an hour, if the lady next door, the pastor's mother, is the one who primarily labors that field next door, and she's in her 90s. And and the stories this woman tells of a lifetime of farming and initially sharecropping from the South is just amazing. So I've never spent more quality time in a garden than with this woman. So you can meet some great people in your local community gardens, and it's definitely worthwhile to go get your fingernails dirty with them.
Join the Dirty Fingernail Club.
Yeah.
So besides things to get started, you can also, and time is something you can donate the whole time of the garden. But once you're ready, it's harvest season. That's when you can start donating to your local food pantries. You can do the tax form from ampleharvest.org. And as Judd, you were saying earlier, they will take as much as they can get.
Absolutely, because it'll disappear. That fresh stuff is going to go right in line to the first people that come through the door, and they're going to take it gladly. Again, I mean, if you can only imagine having to live off of SpaghettiOs and canned vegetables and being in a position like that, it's a rough spot. It obviously, when you're in a position like that, you're going to take what you can get, but that's not healthy. Obviously, these are foods that most of us wouldn't be given a choice. Obviously, wouldn't consume on a daily basis because it's just not good for us. So yeah, to get that extra tomato or cucumber, some of us have these bumper crops because we're excellent gardeners. I'm sure many of your listeners are fantastic gardeners. There's no doubt in my mind that there's pounds and pounds and pounds of extra food out there that everybody could be donating. So let's not let it go to waste this year.
And please make sure to donate the stuff that you would eat from the garden. So don't donate cucumbers that are way past their prime.
Right. Yeah, don't wait that long. Try to pre-plan. See, everybody knows, you know when it's all going to start rushing at you, and if you're not going to pick
it and donate it. And I'm laughing because at my community garden plot that I have a plot at, there is a basket where you can donate extra produce that's dropped off once a week for us at the local senior center. And people would put some of the most inedible, nasty stuff in there, and you're just like, please just put it in the compost.
Right. Right.
Your intent is there, but it's just pointless.
Yeah, fortunately, again, I just have too much, so I'm forced into giving lots of good produce away anyhow. But it's good that people think of it anyhow. I can't imagine.
It's nice and it's great, but sometimes I'm like, yeah, you could just. Sometimes things get overripe in the garden and it just goes to the compost, and it becomes part of the soil again, and that is your donation of that fruit or vegetable.
Right on. Just put it back in the soil.
Put it back in the soil. But yeah, you just remember you got to get out there, and if you can't eat it all, donate it. Another thing that you can do, or anyone can do, is there's also preserving it. And for me, I like to preserve as much as possible, so I have stuff that I can eat through the winter. But again, I can only preserve so much of it.
I'm glad you brought that up,
run out of room.
Because again, if there's anybody looking to probably spend a little time or donate a little food to the cause, the what places take in varies from place to place, and it's not even relative to what the laws are. There are some rescue missions or soup kitchens, for lack of better words, that will actually take home canned goods. So this time of year, when you're approaching planting your next garden, and maybe last year was just such an incredible year that you still have a full pantry. If you get to the point where you're getting closer to harvest and you want to unload some of last year's crop, it'd probably be worth your time just to at least ask if the food or the rescue mission will take it on if they have if they're going to cook it anyway, they generally will take it.
And a lot of times, like another thing for the church, who you're going to be doing some gardening stuff with, they have a kitchen. Is that correct?
Yeah, they do some. The church that I'm going to be doing the gardening stuff with doesn't have the kitchen for the homeless. That they work with another kitchen that's in downtown Kalamazoo.
But they do have a kitchen. So, say even the church is going to be doing some events and things later on. They can also do some community canning days.
Indeed. And in fact, that's probably something we're going to do because the church next door, I'm working with them to try and employ some year-round hydroponic projects in their basement as well. You and I will have to touch up on that in the future, maybe.
I think we will.
Yeah, and it's the church itself is on an L-shaped property on the corner, and in either direction off of the corner of the L are the fields where they do the farming, and they only do it on one side now, but we're going to add a second side and rent out plots, much like the one that you gardened in, Emily.
Nice, like my little community garden plot. So I'll have to send you the bylaws too.
Exactly. Well, that would be great. That would kind of help us set up some community expectations for the area that we're going to set up for people.
Or how to take it back if it just doesn't work out for somebody.
Yeah, right. We'll hope we're not going to need to do that. And if it doesn't work out like that, I think then I need more lights, and I'll be starting 300 tomatoes next year.
There you go. That's a fantastic plan. So here's a few things as we try to stick around 30 minutes, and we're getting to our 30-minute mark because Judd and I can talk for hours about plants.
Anything even.
Anything? Yeah, so Judd and I talk for long amounts of time sometimes. But what you can do for donating seeds, donating plants, donating garden equipment, donating time. What else were we talking about? Harvesting, fresh food donations, canning, and just helping out your local community.
Mm-hmm. I would, if anybody else, any of your other listeners has some unique ideas, or they've asked the right questions of their community garden leaders and gotten answers like I have in terms of tomato cages and peppers and tomatoes, I'd like to hear it. If there's more that us as individuals can do for our community in terms of gardening, especially us as individual gardeners, I'm always game to hear it, and I know you are too, Emily.
And if you have ideas, post them on Facebook, A Girl in a Garden on Facebook. You can find Harvest Solutions to talk to Judd or send me an email directly to agirlinagarden@gmail.com. So, Judd, will you join me again and give me an update on how these plants are going? Maybe in May after you do some planting outside.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have to get some pictures together, maybe even some video. I did talk to the pastor as well. Maybe we can get some interview time with him.
That would be fantastic. I'd love it.
Cool.
So thank you so much, Farmer Judd.
Thank you, Emily. I always love coming on your show.
Well, thank you. So this is Emily on A Girl in a Garden on dfcradio.com.
I was so lost back then, but with a little help from my friends, I found a light in the tunnel at the end.
We're listening to DFCRadio.com.
Here at Green Grow, we take organic gardening seriously. With our mycorrhizae products, you'll increase growth and help reduce the need to replace old, worn-out soil. We help provide electrolytes and maximize nutrient intake to make your indoor garden lush and green. So give your plants the strength that they need and breathe life into your soil with Green Grow. Find us at your local nursery or visit us at thegreengrow.com. That's thegreen.com.
You are listening to the beautiful Emily Walter on DFCRadio.com.
DFCRadio.com.
This is Gardening in 2 Minutes. Hardening off is a practice that some gardeners may not participate in, and it can be detrimental to the plants that you're taking from your grow room out and planting in your garden.
It's important because you want your plants to become acclimated to the new weather and the new conditions that they will face. Certain plants have an easier adjustment time, but they will all benefit from hardening off.
The hardening off practice is you gradually bring the plants outside, starting in shade for a few hours, and then gradually working to full sun and leaving them out overnight prior to putting them in the garden. Many plants are best to direct sow so you can avoid the whole practice of moving the plants in and out over a week's period.
If this is your first time hardening off, just be aware that just a couple hours a day is plenty at the first, and then work up from that. And maybe if you're unsure about it, then just do half of them.
If you do not harden your plants off, what can happen is the shock of taking the plant from a controlled climate, which is in your house, your grow room, and putting it in the cold ground. Even in the summer, the soil is much cooler than the temperatures inside your grow room, your greenhouse, or your house. So by putting them in the ground, it shocks the plant to where it has to recover and not focus on productivity, but focusing on getting acclimated to the environment, which can slow down the time it takes to harvest that particular plant. For more information on hardening off your plants, our weekly video productions, as well as our free downloadable digital quarterly magazine, you can find all that information at
thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.
For the health-conscious organic gardener worldwide. For Gardening in 2 Minutes, I'm Joy Baird.
And I'm Holly Baird.
Welcome back to A Girl in a Garden on dfcradio.com. Big thank you to Judd from Harvest Solutions. You can find out more information about his products at harvestsolutions.net, or you can go find Harvest Solutions on Facebook. So thank you, Judd, for joining me, and hopefully he'll join me again next month so he can update us on the progress of the gardens that he's helping plant and grow the seeds for, or grow the starts for. Okay, so last night I posted on Instagram, and I said that I would talk about my Tinder fails. And if you do not know what Tinder is a dating app where you swipe left or swipe right, depending if you like their picture, and you have a little area to write a bio. So I have one. I've had one since, I think I joined at Thanksgiving time, so since November. And I've met 2 people on Tinder, so I said I'd tell my Tinder story. So, my Tinder profile, pretty basic. Has a few pictures, and then I have on my profile, I work in sales management, traveler, tattooed gardener, 420 friendly, Scorpio, no kids, single. I host a radio show about urban gardens. Fuck lawns, plant a garden. I'm 5 feet, everyone's tall. And then it shows my friends and my interest. And if you have like interest, you have like friends, it will show you that you have mutual friends. And you can search, by mileage, distance of where you're at. And the thing with Tinder is I would be considered old for being on Tinder at the young age of 34. Tinder is a hookup site that typically you post pictures of things that I've seen that I do not want to see from strangers. So it's an interesting site because people seem to use it as a hookup site. And so I'm going to tell you my 2 stories of the people I've met since November. The first one was a guy that I got matched with, and we started chatting, and we happened to work in the same industry. And so I ended up meeting up with him for breakfast, and then we went to the Emerald Cup together, walked around the cup, talked about growing stuff. He goes by the name Lifespan. His name's John, and he actually has been a guest on A Girl in a Garden. Totally cool about gardening. And the funny story, long story short, he now bought a bunch of lights from my day job, Nanolux, and I give him tech support on stuff. And he just did a big install of our DE fixtures. So, small world, met on a dating site, went to a cup together, guest on my radio show, and now he's a customer of my day job. That is my good Tinder story. Now for my Tinder fail. This guy, he had the same name as my dog. So my dog had a cute name. It was Winston. It's a good name. Probably a good guy. So we text, we're chatting, and then we text, and he's like, do you want to go for a hike? Okay. And we decide a place to meet, and then I'm thinking in my head of, oh my gosh, I didn't ask that many questions. Probably not the smartest thing in the world, but I'm just going to go with it. So we end up meeting, and we're in the car driving, and he kind of has this accent. I'm like, where are you from? Oh, I'm from Idaho. Okay, that's great. Chatting a little bit more, talking about normal stuff, kids, marriage, things like that. And finally it comes out, he's like, I left the church. I'm like, okay, what does that mean? He's like, oh, I actually have 5 kids that live in another country, and we were in this offshoot of LDS that most people would consider a cult. So I end up going on a hike with a guy that I met from Tinder who's recently escaped from a cult and has 5 kids. And he just went to the ocean for the first time. So I'm trying to have these conversations with him, and we have absolutely nothing in common. I have some interesting views on religion, and I grew up religious. So normally I have to be nice, Emily, and not always say what's on my mind, especially when it's someone who considers themselves leaving a cult, and they don't visit their kids anymore, and they don't have to pay child support, and they take no responsibility for their stuff. So my Tinder fail was talk to the person a little bit more to find out if you aren't dating someone who's been in a cult. And then talk to them some more to figure out if they aren't complete weirdos, because he was definitely interesting. It was an interesting hike. Thank goodness I took him out to my favorite place, which is Bodega Head, and we were able to enjoy the nice area and the nice view, and I was able to take some pictures and do some plant stuff because our conversation while on the hike was extremely interesting. And at the end, I got him really high off of a few hits off a joint, and he talked the whole time in the car. And I don't know what my deal is. Sometimes I end up going on dates, and it's always this is like, do you smoke? Here, why don't you try this? And it ends up being interesting to say the least. So I will say from my side, I was able to entertain myself because I'm like, oh, I just got this person who's never, ever, ever touched pot really high, and now they're really high and having this hilarious conversation. And then I can start to say some of the things that I think. And yeah, so that is my Tinder fail. 2 people I've met off of Tinder. One has been a guest on A Girl in a Garden, and the other one is an ex-cult member. Now, I will say I chat pretty often on Tinder, and I did get a message from somebody else, and they said, please don't talk about me on your radio show and say that we've met on Tinder. And I had to respond back. I'm like, are you paranoid? Because first, we haven't met, so you didn't read my post. And second, you're responding to me on Tinder, but I don't know if you're following me on Instagram. So I will mention you because you sent me a message saying not to talk about you. And I haven't met you. So please read what I've posted, the 2 people that I've met. So those are my interesting Tinder stories. I will say, taking away from Tinder, I use it more for networking than the hookup site because there are some freaking weirdos on there. So those are my Tinder fails, and completely not garden related, but it's Emily related, and it's my show, so I get to talk about that kind of stuff. But until next week, this is Emily on DFCRadio.com.
DFCRadio.com.